Good evening. My name is Will Omodia, and I'm here with Prince Onochie, Ifeanyi Onochie of the National Association of Seadogs. Please tell us a bit about yourself.
My name is Ifeanyi Onochie. I'm the NAS International President of National Association of Seadogs, Pyrates Confraternity. The organization is a civil society organization that has its provenance in Nigeria but operates globally. It's an organization that has membership from professionals in all walks of life, and basically they come together to see what they can do to improve the welfare of humanity and to uplift humanity. That, in essence, is what National Association of Seadogs is about.
Thank you very much. And how long has this been?
Oh, the organization has been in existence for over 6 decades, but the way it has evolved is such that it grows from strength to strength, and it keeps readjusting and repositioning itself, its approach, its operations, in order to better fulfill the objectives that it sets out to.
Interesting, you say it evolves. So, would you say this is, has it evolved into something which is fit for purpose for today's society? And which society do you find yourself impacting the most?
Okay. If I go back to its founding, that was in 1952-53 in the University College Ibadan, the foremost Nigerian tertiary institution at the time. It was founded by 7 students, and over the decades, the organization has evolved from that school fraternity to a global organization that has minimum requirement of membership, a graduate degree. So the evolution has been such that it sees the necessity, to reposition itself from the intake process, the modalities, and trying to match that with the objective it has. So it has really evolved, and I'm sure that from the days of its founding to now, not many of them then would have foreseen the organization the way it is today.
There's this interesting question that I have been asked in the past. Why a fraternity, not a club? And it's called Pyrates Confraternity. How would you, first, 2 questions. Why fraternity, not an ordinary, club? And then what's the difference between a fraternity and a confraternity?
Well, it's basically semantics. A club is a club, and a fraternity is a club. A confraternity is a club. I believe that all of that is subsumed in organization. So however you wish to define it or to qualify it, the important thing is that being a fraternity, the membership is male. Now, having said that, the organization itself is gender sensitive in that we have our wives who are part of what we do, and the operations that we carry out and the activities that we carry out are very gender sensitive in that we cover activities that border on both the male and the female gender. So that is how far one can go with respect to that. But for its membership, for now, it's strictly male, as it is a fraternity.
Prince Ifeanyi, you've mentioned that you've explained the understanding that you have given to us about confraternity, club, and being semantics. You've touched on something which I want to probably probe just a little bit further. What sort of activities do you find yourself engaged in?
Well, the organization has different thematic sub areas that it involves in. Because the raison d'etre of the organization is the attainment of a just society. And the approach is multifaceted. Because when you are talking about the attainment of a just society, you need to talk about the eradication of poverty. You need to talk about access to justice, access to good health. You need to talk about access to education. And when you have all of these things in different thematic sub areas, you find out that they come together to, achieve that objective of attainment of a just society. You wouldn't be talking about a just society to someone who cannot get legal representation in court. You wouldn't be talking about just society to someone who cannot find food to eat, someone who has some form of ailment and cannot access medical attention. So the organization approaches that objective from many perspectives. Now there is, we have an initiative that we call the NAS Medical Mission. Now, that takes care of the activities we carry out in the health sector. Now, what we do in that is find the often neglected members of the society in various communities, most times most times in the third world countries or the developing nations. We find these often neglected communities, and then we see the gap that exists in the health sector, and we provide healthcare services. We deliver it to that community. We make that effort to reach the community wherever they are and show them that they are part of society, because the gap that continues to widen between the haves and the have-not is what makes the society more insecure. And when you find people feeling part of the society, then there will be that collective effort to make society more secure.
Thank you. I'm just going to go in a different direction now. I have done a bit of, I understand a bit about the National Association of Seadogs. I want to ask you about why you think, why is it that people associate it with, I guess there's some sort of connotation that it's some secret society. I mean, just briefly, what's your response to that?
Well, people always are entitled to their opinions, and there are always this preconceived notion that people have. But I'm here. There is nothing secret about me.
Okay, a question that bugs me. We have a confraternity. It's not a secret confraternity. What's the makeup of the religious beliefs? I have heard people talk about it as if there might be some fundamentalist leanings. Is this true?
Far from it. First of all, I must say that the the organization is non-religious, in that people have the right to their religious beliefs, and it's private and individual to them. Now, we are completely apolitical when you talk about partisan politics, because you find that religion and politics are the two things that would divide even the closest of families. So we stay away from those two and have a common ground, which is humanity. So you could say that the work that the organization does is centered around humanity. So whatever it is, your belief or your leaning is, and it is toward uplifting humanity, raising humanity to highest levels of fulfillment, then you you are in sync with the objectives of the organization. And again, when you talk about unity of purpose, I'll tell you that the people who founded the organization had the seriousness of the task at hand. You know, when they formed it from the seafaring adventure of human beings. You know what happens when you get on a boat? When you get on a boat, whether a galley or a ship or whatever, for as long as you remain in that boat, moving from point A to point B, nothing else matters but that boat remaining afloat and moving from point A and getting to point B. Whatever happens on board that ship or that boat affects the collective destiny of everyone in it. So when you are on that boat, you need to think about not just yourself, but the other person. Whatever it is you're doing, you must ensure that it does not torpedo the collective destiny, because if anything happens to that boat, everybody faces the same danger. So the Pyrates Confraternity National Association of Seadogs sees that as a very serious task. So when we are moving in one direction, it is to attain that just society, and that unity of purpose is strengthened by everyone acting in one accord. So if you have that in mind, you will now see how important it is that people do not take any actions that they feel that is selfish, because whatever happens to one affects the other.
That's interesting. So, what you're trying to make us understand is that it's everyone looks after themselves. Well, looks after each other. Okay, that's a interesting one. Just tell me a bit more about this program that I heard you'd started recently. I just want to talk a bit more about the politics or the political side. You've started this program called, I know about it, Citizen Summit. How does that speak to the here, the now, the today in the society? But, I mean, you're here in the UK. Um, Apparently, you're everywhere, well, in many places. How does that affect the UK, Europe, United States, Asia, and Africa?
Thank you very much. Today, we do not speak about just a particular region in the world. It's a global village. And as I just said some minutes ago, what affects one affects the other. And from Nigeria, you'll find that we've had a lot of years experimenting, in quote, with different types of government. And fortunately, since 1999, there has been this unadulterated democracy. But
You're talking about Nigeria.
in Nigeria, yes, there's this unadulterated democracy from 1999. And it presents with its own challenges. And the Citizen Summit, in essence, is making the people part of the governance, making the people know that the right that they have is in their vote. And that vote is what entitles them to the government that they get. Now, governance is about transparency, accountability, and citizen participation. So we create that awareness and make the people understand that they need to be involved and exercise their right so that their voices will be heard, which the government should take into recognition in acting on their behalf. Now in the UK, we have what is on the 23rd of June.
Yes, 23rd, yes.
That is when the
The
referendum is
Brexit.
going to take place. And we're talking about Brexit. And the Citizen Summit here for us is not about staying or going. It's about the awareness and the people knowing that they have the right to take a decision which would affect them. If they stand aloof and feel it does not concern them, if the decision is taken and the referendum goes in the way of exit, it affects everybody. So our duty is not about convincing anyone where to go. No. Go and look at what it means. Go and look at what it portends for you, for your children, and you take the decision as you deem it fit. In the United States, we're talking about the Republicans and the Democrats. And the Citizen Summit is about the same awareness. What policies are they propagating? What policies are they canvassing that they will put in place? How does that affect those in the minority? How does that affect those in the majority? How does that affect the security of the community? Because when you have a great number of the population of the United States and the UK here from Africa. And people need to understand that wherever they are, that is where they make the impact the most. So when you're talking about globalization, whether you talk about it in terms of migration, in terms of economics, business, it is the same thing about human beings. And the way people behave, the way they act, the way they settle down in any particular community is what determines the society that they find themselves. So our duty with the Citizen Summit is for people to be aware of the environment politically and to take the right decisions that will best affect them, their children, and their communities.
Okay, thank you. So, if I just bring us back to your home base, Nigeria, um, what's your reaction, or what would be your reaction to your member seeking political office?
Well, it is even more challenge to our member seeking political office because it means that he has to do more than the average politician. He needs to understand that he is an ambassador of the organization and all that we are about, he is espousing. So our advice would always be for the person to go there and show how it should be done, regardless of the setbacks, because you know the ocean there is so red and that people tend to be very unscrupulous. And that is one thing that makes it even worse for the society. So any member of our organization that seeks political office is encouraged. But he knows that the challenge is more on him because he needs to do everything right.
So, how would you see the organization going forward? Say, things are changing all over the world. Like you mentioned, it's a global village now. And I am aware that there are members from different parts of the world or who reside in different parts of the world. So, how many places, how many countries do you have members of National Association of Seadogs?
Across the continent,
Currently?
across the continent, we have members from in Australia, in Japan, in South Africa, in Canada, in the United States, here in the UK, in Netherlands, in the Republic of Ireland. So we have different chapters in these places, but the presence is there. And the way we operate is based on the environment, what we find on ground, because basically we need to identify a gap, and then we move to fill the identified gap the way it is most needed endeavours.
But when you say gap, what exactly are you talking about? I mean, give an give an example. Say like in Australia.
In Australia, it is about perhaps the minority involvement in labor. In Australia, you talk about immigration and issues and how much the people who own the land per se are treated by government. And again, do they now become liabilities upon themselves, or do they see themselves integrated in the government and be part of it, or do they just sit back and wait for handouts?
So, do you see members of the Association of National Association of Seadogs going into? I think what you're alluding to is advocacy of some sort and humanitarian, I think, functions.
Oh, that is an integral part of what we do. Advocacy, it's very prominent in the work we do because you can never stop talking about issues. The discussion has to go on for people to understand that there's need for action to be taken. So advocacy is a very prominent part of what we do. And on the humanitarian front, we do a lot of that. Like we are in the UK now, and we have a charity ball where we're raising funds to support people with mental health challenges. And there's a charity in the UK, Mind, in the UK, that we are going to support because they've been doing great work in that regard. And there's also a smaller charity, Mind in Midhurst, that we also are going to support. Already, some of our members took part in a 100-kilometer walk about a week ago from London to Brighton. And that walk raised funds. I'm sure they raised over £2,000. And tonight, we're having a charity ball that would raise further funds. And that is part of the humanitarian work that we do, because we know that the funds that we're going to raise here tonight, the one that we already raised from the work, is going to impact greatly on the work that Mind is already doing, and there'll be a world of difference in the lives of people that have these mental health challenges.
Okay. Prince Ifeanyi, I have listened with a lot of intrigue about the National Association of Seadogs. I'd like to know what are your plans? How do you accept, or what's the word, into this association, confraternity, club, organization? What's the procedure? Is it a long procedure? Is it tedious? Is it one of these things that you read about? Just briefly, just, I know you don't need to give the whole 9 yards of how, but just let us know how it goes.
Thank you very much. Basically, for you to be a member, you must be a university graduate. And we have a website where we have an application window that opens once in a year, about the month of November. First weekend in November, it opens usually in the year, and it runs for about 4 weeks. So when you visit the website, www.nas-int.org. That is nasint.org. When you visit our website, you would read more about the association. So the membership is open. If you feel you have the requirements and you have that zeal to give back to society, you have that inclination to see society made better, you are welcome to fill out the form, and the process is that's where the process starts, and then you will be taken through the gamut of things that needs to be done.
Oh, that's good. I mean, I like it's almost too simple. There must be another angle to this, but we'll let that ride for now. What I would like to say, I'll turn the mic on the other side. You tell me what you would like to tell us. I don't want to ask any more questions. What do you want to tell the viewers?
What I want to say is that there's a lot that needs to be done, and we in National Association of Seadogs can't do it all alone. For society to be better, for us to have the kind of society that we desire, we all must come together. It requires concerted effort. We have challenges because most of the funds that we use in our operations are raised by members. So we are open to collaborations, but you must identify those commonality. And that is why it's important for people and organizations that have that same like mind to come together and help out in giving back to the society so that we'll have a more secure future for our children. The National Association of Seadogs is only doing but what you can say to be a drop in the ocean. There's a lot out there. And if we have development partners who can come together and key into what we're doing, I believe that a lot more impact will be made. So people have to leave their comfort zones, come out and see to it that society is made better, because all of us are going to benefit if that happens.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm just going to round this up. I'm really grateful for your time. I believe this is one of those conversations that could go on and on, because there seems to be so much to learn from this organization. I also feel that there's a lot that one could engage with you about, and just to learn the past, the present, and the future of the National Association of Seadogs. I would just like to say that perhaps you might give us the opportunity to have this conversation continue. And as we go along in our ways of dealing with things in the society, I wonder how many people are there in this organization. I mean, to handle so much. Advocacy is a big project.
Well, we do not count the number of people that are our members. What matters is the number of people that we can get to do the task that needs to be done to achieve the objective. So as we have been chatting, I'm sure that people who are listening will see that there is a platform they can key into and do that which they've always wanted to do. And that is the essence of having activities like we do have. And we want people to understand that governance is about all of us. If you keep quiet, you don't have a right to complain later. If you take the time to do what you must do now, tomorrow we'll all be the better for it.
Thank you very much.